Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. A lot of you have heard about my inner healing journey. I've mentioned this in many of my videos, and now I'm getting more requests for content on that. I'm still going through the process of inner healing, and part of me feels a little weird sharing this because a lot of these things I haven't fully integrated yet. And I feel like it's best to teach things that you actually know in your body, in your spirit, in your life. So I've kind of held back, but I felt like there was a push to go forward. So I'm just gonna admit I'm not quite there yet, but why wait until I feel completely healed before I share these gems? One of the things that's been really helpful in my journey is just doing research and finding good books and then taking notes on those books. And one of the greatest books I've read so far is The Key. This author really understands trauma. He's a Christian pastor that has come up with a great technique on how to feel heard and how to be part of a healing community. There's just so much good information in this book. I highly recommend looking it up on Amazon. The link is in my description box. This is not a sponsored video. I just really believe in this book so much. I'm going to be doing a whole series on the things that I'm learning in this book. Today, our topic is understanding relational trauma from disconnection. So I'm going to try my very best to explain these incredible discoveries of how the human body was designed by God and how God intends for us to get our healing. A lot of us have trauma and don't know how to work it out in our body, in our conversations, in our relationships. I believe God gives us insight in the Word and insight through knowledgeable people. In this life, there are so many things that we can get superficially. I believe God has created us to hunger for deeper, for more. And it is scary sometimes to go deeper. Hold my hand and let's do this together. Let's learn about how the body works, how the brain interprets trauma, and what we can do to help heal ourselves and each other. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Hosea 4:6. Did you know that Satan doesn't want you to be who God created you to be? Because then you can't do what God created you to do, and then you aren't a force against him. You're weak, you're nothing. Human beings are made in the image of God, and this is why the image of God inside man is being attacked. Our identity is being challenged every day, and the enemy wants to get us derailed as early as he can. Using pain when you're young, he can keep you in pain all throughout your life. When you're stuck in pain, how can you help someone else heal? It's really difficult, right? They say when you're in an airplane that you need to put your life vest on before you do it for anyone else, and that's kind of the same when it comes to pain. The thief cometh not, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. John 10:10. Science says that we need to bond and attach from the time when we're really young. Human beings, if they're not in relationship, they're actually in physical pain. I want you to think about bonding as relational glue that keeps people together. Let's say a woman has a child. That child learns how to bond with their mother and then their father. This is a representation of how we are supposed to be trusting Father God. So if our parents didn't show up in a way where we felt cared for and it was safe and we felt like we could trust them, in a lot of ways, we aren't able to fully understand trusting God. The only thing that we can kind of correlate in our brain as a leader, as somebody who is supposed to guide us through life, is really our parents. I'm not saying your parents are all jerks or purposeful jerks. Some people just didn't know what they were doing. Some people had kids really young. Some people had kids in poverty and they couldn't afford a lot. Some people had lots of children. They weren't able to sow into their kids exactly what that child needed to fully develop and get their self-worth. I'm not saying this as an attack on parents. I think that it's important to understand how childhood wounds stay there in our body. Truly, I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 18:3. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Matthew 18:6. Healthy attachment really comes in childhood. It really begins with the infant's ability to see the parent is glad to be in their presence, glad to supply their needs, a safe place for the child to fall and be picked up. Attachment actually happens when a child feels understood. It's important for the parent to mirror their feelings. So if the child is crying, not necessarily shushing them and trying to soothe them right away, but acknowledging, hey, I see you're going through pain. Oh, that's really awful. And sitting with them in that pain and helping them regulate their body and their emotions because they're in a safe place to process those things. Let's say, for example, your child is freaking out in the grocery store and you're embarrassed. So you're trying to get them to be quiet and not make such a ruckus. In the child's experience, they feel like they have to shut up, that their needs aren't important. They feel pushed down in the spirit. A healthy adult would meet that child in their emotional state, mirror what they are seeing, and help that child to regulate out of that and give them a safe place to process. We have to understand how our childhood has affected the way that we see ourselves. If you were never listened to as a baby and you were crying in your crib and your parents ignored you, there could be a very high chance that you have high insecurity, high anxiety, because you always feel vulnerable. The world is not a safe place because the parents who are supposed to regulate your emotions, who are supposed to see you, understand what you're feeling, help you process through all that, they weren't available to do that. So you were left to kind of figure things out on your own. Our parents all do the best they can, but just because they did the best they can doesn't mean they did a good job. Doesn't mean we have to placate and lie to ourselves and say, oh, well, they tried their best, they did good enough, so moving on. No. We can acknowledge I didn't get my needs met as a child, and this has affected me as an adult. And now I am going to take personal responsibility for the parenting that wasn't given to me, and I'm going to learn how to reparent myself as an adult. It's really crucial for parents to make an emotional connection with their child. This affects their mental, physical, social, and emotional health for the rest of their lives. How do we build attachment? How does that even work? Basically, what it comes down to is being emotionally present for that child, not being consumed with your own needs, but really meeting your child where they're at. What happens when children don't get that emotional connection? This affects their ability to trust, to attain intellectual potential, to acquire a conscience, and develop successful relationships. But the good news is, if you provide your child healthy emotional connection, it gives them the ability to develop an identity. It also gives them the ability to have self-esteem, and it helps them to learn to regulate their emotions and their feelings. It helps them also to develop their language and brain structure. What does a child who is not emotionally connected look like? Pay attention to this list and see if you have any of these qualities. You have trouble giving or receiving affection. You can become overly demanding and clingy. You chatter endlessly. You seek attention regularly. You have poor eye contact, abnormal eating patterns, poor impulse control. You're a chronic liar. You steal. You have self-destructive habits that affect other people. You're cruel to animals. Commonly, children who weren't able to express their emotions shut down and become numb or suppress rage. They're always keeping rage down. If you were never able to attach to your parents, you will notice later on in life, you'll have a hard time connecting with other people because on the most basic level, the people that were supposed to truly support you and meet your needs never met your needs and never supported you. So you don't know how to navigate through life in a community. These people feel alone, rejected, betrayed, and abandoned, even when they're not. It doesn't necessarily mean these people are always being rejected and abandoned and betrayed. They are looking for signs of being rejected, abandoned, and betrayed. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you look for, you will find. What you look for, you will attract. When you have attachment pain, these three things will happen. You will not trust anyone but yourself. You will always try to be in control of your life or other people's. You will live in fear of loss of control. And that is a prison. So I know that was a lot to go over. I highly recommend listening to this video again because I think you're going to pick up on things that you missed out on. The bottom line is if you're noticing you're having issues in your relationships, this is a sign that you might have have an attachment issue. We all have to deal with other people. Some of us were not given the tools on how to do that properly. We get insecure, we get more into ourselves, and we don't actually go out there and pursue healing because that's a scary thing. It's an unknown thing. And people with attachment issues have issues with the unknown. They want to be in control. It's really hard to get healing unless you're determined that you're not going to stay this way, unless you're determined to go through some uncomfortable scenarios, dig up where do these issues rise for me and how can I deal with them in a healthy, godly way. We're going to go over all of that, and I hope you stay with me on this series. I think that this is going to be amazing healing for all of us. So stay tuned, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.